Hello there. I thought I would point out a rather troubling observation. This is regarding my father, Dr. Galizia, and his apparent anti life behaviour recently. This is the sustained and determined attempt to try and drain the life out of everything that moves, and including himself, actually, judging by this photograph. Now, perhaps this can be best represented, just with this very simple diagram here. This is basically what he's up to, um, sucking the life out of everything that moves, and maybe this is also another way of describing what's happening. My dear father here with his magic left hand, sucking the life out of literally anything that dares to move. Now, the problem here is that, I mean, a joking aside, this is actually turned into quite a serious issue, because what started with actually trying to drain the life out of me, this is 25 years ago when I was struggling with cancer. So, timeline of my life here, when I developed sinus cancer in 1995, we can see that my father's attempts to try and drain the life out of me have been also very determined. This is simply by telling me the symptoms are normal, using the disease to terrorize and torture me, like so. This is the tumour in my sinus cavity here, exacting pressure on my head like so, squashing it into a slightly different shape. Quite a nasty form of terrorism, to say the least. And as I say, a form of terrorism that has now backfired rather unceremoniously in his own face. And this is following the discovery that the whole thing was a scam right from the outset. And of course, my recent videos have highlighted this, I think, quite successfully or clearly. I mean, this is the global cancer charity scam, suppressing cures for sinus cancer so they can use the disease to cause maximum damage. And as I say, the very clear intention here was, of course, to hide cures, use the disease to terrorize people and stitch everybody up. Just basically a massive stitch up. And they have people employed to the task of doing this, charity worker employees and people such as my father, who have been caught in the act red-handed, so to speak. So what we're looking at here is, yes, his response to being caught, and of course, this involves more of what he knows how to do, which is just this very threatening, life-draining behaviour that appears to come very naturally to him. And just briefly, just have a quick look at it, just the itinerary here. Is this the biggest stitch-up in the world? It could be. I mean, what started up off as a patient stitch-up ended up as my entire family being stitched up. Humiliating a cancer patient has humiliated my whole family. What started as an experiment on me has ended up as a social manipulation experiment upon my whole family. Does my dad even realise he is rising to the bait by adopting a strict anti-life stance? Is he aware of how many lives are being suffocated and destroyed? Because I think the point I'm getting to here is that the amount of people being affected by this cannot be underestimated. This is the tip of the iceberg. And there's a number of other people in my family, apart from the few represented here, who, as far as I know, are all under this spell. They're all under this curse. My father literally has his magic hand up, and he is draining the life out of every single one of, literally. My sister not, been able to speak, and she's not spoken for about 10 years. This is since 2010. She's been completely silent, suffocated, literally. 10 years of her life taken away, really. I personally, think. Same goes for my mother, not seen sight nor sound of her for almost 5 years. My son, not seen him for 6 years. My sister's children, again, not seen them for 10 years. So, yeah, very, very determined attempt to suffocate his whole family, drain the life out of them, um, make sure that their life quality is, virtually nothing, and, their days are not worth living, which apparently is legal. It's, I suppose if we do this subtly and we do it in a very methodical, steady fashion, and we are careful not to, deliberately break the law, then I suppose in some ways this kind of intimidation might be legal. But it does seem to have some very um, serious consequences that are looming on the horizon. This is, with the collapse of the scam now. This is the capsizing of the Titanic here that represents the cancer scam, and the economy literally going down, or about to go down, and the strange arrival of this lifeboat with COVID-19 written on the side of it, as I say, which is all part and parcel of this using diseases to terrorize, and using yes, the symptoms of these terminal illnesses in order to make maximum profit from patients by supplying partially effective treatments, all part of a very, again, dark, evil, extremely broad, global, all-encompassing medical scam that appears to have been started many thousands of years ago. Now, yes, the confusion and turning of the tables now, as the scam goes down, also appears to have heavily influenced this anti-life behaviour from my father. And point being, of course, this is not going to end in a nice way. The more my father perpetuates this behaviour, the more attention he seems to gain, and the more attention he gains, the more humiliated he is. This is the dear man here, and of course, the more humiliated he is, the more he digs his heels in, and the more exposed he is, the more he just reverts back to his old habits, and we quite literally are getting nowhere here. As I guess he sees this as a solution, quite literally to suffocate his whole family in the hope that that will stop them from talking, stop them from exposing vital information. This is with regards to this horrible scam, and hopefully, keep the lid on the whole damn thing that way. And try and, mitigate the fallout from all this capsize, which is, I guess, a source of great humiliation as well. So yes, in response to this exposure, his reaction has been this very determined anti-life strategy, this anti-human, yes, anti-Christ pattern of behaviour, as I say, which is unmatched by anything I've seen recently. I mean, quite literally, this is really quite astonishing, to see this obviously, not just spread through my family, but also extending to every other person in this picture, of which there are many more, of course, coming from more countries. This is, family in Malta. There's a contingent in Switzerland, from my ex-wife there, friends and family. I've got family in Canada as well. It's a number of different countries, all, and people, at least 50 people affected by this. And when you consider 50 people, that's a lot of lives to be suffocating. And, that again, could be a conservative estimate. So, holy cow. Yeah, how is this going to end up? Well, not well is the answer. Very clearly we can see that. So I think, the message here is that this has to end. It has to end soon, before the newspapers get a hold of it, quite simply, because they will get hold of it sooner or later. And when they do, it's not going to be nice. It's obviously going to be a great, even greater source of humiliation. So yes, I mean, several questions from this. Just check my checklist here. Is he even aware of how many lives are being suffocated and destroyed? Quite possibly not. Does he even care? Quite possibly not. Will he be allowed to suck his entire family's life down the drain until the day he dies? Well, quite possibly so. And yes, all the more reason I think, to stop this madman in his tracks because, this is what we are finding out here. My father is not all there in the head, is he really? I mean, somebody who literally